It's like everyone's doing the same Riverside, Zoom.
Yeah.
And the content's not as good. Right?
It's quite like a fine line to balance, because obviously we like to come to our guests.
Yeah.
It's quite cool to see people in there, like just to quickly meet your team. It's quite nice to catch people in their environment.
Yeah.
But obviously we want to bring high quality, but it's quite hard to stick it in a bag.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of equipment that we sort of sit and look at and think, God, I'd love to have a bit of that.
That's it. Like once you meet people face to face, it's easier to like, hey, fingers crossed we're about to do our Series A, do something straight after that, and there's like, because you know the people, right? You have a personal relationship after that.
Are you about to do your Series A?
Yeah.
Cool.
So
okay,
exciting stuff. So but yeah,
because I was looking at your pitch deck from your pre-seed 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to know a little bit about that. I'll frame the questions.
Yeah.
But we're both very curious. We're on an investment journey ourselves.
Yeah.
We all do some rounds, and you've actually received the most investment of the guests we've spoken to so far. So, we're curious to understand what you would do differently, how it was.
But this is the idea of the value of the content, right? These nuggets that you can give us based on, the journey you went through in terms of investing this is what we want. This is because to get to where you are is so impressive. It really is. And for someone who sat there working a 9-to-5 job thinking, I've got an idea, but it's a big step to go from that to that. And to try and understand the things that you've gone through to get there, there's so much value.
And I think this is it. It's each leap at a time. And there's like having the job, and it's like, okay, what do I need to do to quit my job to get to this? And like, is there a certain amount of money I need to support my mortgage? You can't just quit, right? And then it's like, okay, do I get funding? But before I get funding, do I need a couple of customers? And then do I have an idea? What can I do whilst I'm like? There's all these things you have to work out at every single moment in time.
Yes.
Ultimately, it's you've got to make the jumps, and you've got to be like, fuck it sometimes, right? That's what it comes down to, right? Because you can overthink everything.
We know that feeling well.
Yeah. We've had a lot of fuck it.
You have to, right?
I mean, right now, of course, this podcast and the production and the travel, we bear the cost of because we believe in the vision and that it will become something. And so there's an element of fuck it. And every time we ever come out, we think to ourselves, how fantastic. What a great way to spend our time. Because it was interesting for us personally. Who cares if we met you and you've got to tell us about it. So, let's not speak too much. You have to see the clips first and see what you think.
We talking about that was a great clip.
Everything's set. We're rolling.
We're good.
Nice.
Great.
Perfect.
I saw something, I can't remember, it was Elon Musk came out this week and said, as of next year, AI will be smarter than humans. And I was like, isn't that already there? Like, I would be like, I was like, why is it? Surely it's already there.
Sure.
Like, every time you use ChatGPT, you're like, this is smarter than any human I've ever.
That's
what we can do in my life. Like, why is it? What's happening?
And a lot less miserable as well.
Yeah. What's happening?
Don't like that. Do it again.
Yeah. Exactly. You treat them really badly.
Exactly.
Well,
you do. Well, I don't.
He says pleases and thank you.
I
do.
I can't believe
I don't.
I'm all for it.
I'm super rude.
No. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Right. So we typically like to begin by asking you in your own words, what is OneShot?
So think of us as an entire AI outbound sales team. And so an outbound sales team isn't just an AI SDR. An SDR is someone who potentially cold calls, sends messages, researches. But actually a really good SDR, it's way more than that. A really good SDR has a team behind them. So think of it as an AI RevOps. So AI SDR, an AI enablement team, an AI SDR, an AI sales leader. So there's effectively 5 different functions within OneShot. We'll start with like RevOps. We understand like who you're working with, your existing customers, who you should be speaking to, who you're not speaking to. You've got 28 customers in finance. Who are the other 50, 100 customers in that same industry that are perfect for you? They're hiring, they've raised funding, they've got the same problems as your existing customers. You've never spoken to them. Now we've found those existing customers, what do we do next? We have to find the people within those organizations, research them, listen to their podcasts, look for news on them, read annual reports. Now we've done all that research, which is typically done by an SDR or enablement team. What does a good message look like? If you look at the top performing SDR teams in the world, they have a sales enablement team. What's the right pain point to mention? What's the right pitch? A CTO and a CEO and a CMO have very different pain points. Then you start taking that into a regulated industry like finance versus the tech industry. So really understand what's the right message to use, what's the right pain points to use. And then it's the actual outreach itself, which is the AI SDR. So now I've found my account, I found my person, I know what message to use. Now I need to put that message together and send it to them. And then at the end of that, it's like, okay, great, I'm doing all this work. How do I know if it's working? Is it effective? Am I getting responses? Are people opening them? Where am I seeing success? Where am I not seeing success? So OneShot effectively is all of those departments in one, from RevOps to enablement to sales leaders to outreach to understand what's working. And then we can do that scale for like thousands and thousands. So in effect, the result is lots of meetings, lots of responses without having to invest in like 5 people, 10 people, 20 people. So we can scale your entire outbound without hiring a bunch of people.
It's a common fear of the growth of AI. Is the tool designed to replace SDRs or to be used by SDRs?
Yeah, I think there's always a bit of both, right? I think there's certain work you'll never replace by a human, right? So if you think about cold calling, yes, you can probably get AI to make a cold call, but I think people, I don't think the tech is there yet. But humans are really good at cold calling. Humans are really good. And actually, an entry-level sales role, there's no better way to learn. Like if I was to say, like, let's make 100 calls to CROs today, maybe 10 connect, those 10 conversations, the amount we're going to learn from that is huge. So like I would say, get SDRs doing that high value work, get them cold calling. But from a researching, reading LinkedIn, going on data providers like ZoomInfo, Cognism, LinkedIn, produce, like completely a waste of time. Like AI can do a much better job of researching at scale, producing messaging at scale, coming up with frameworks for messaging at scale. Like that is no longer human work. Like SDRs should not be doing that at all anymore. And I think we're seeing that already. The sales teams are like, human plus AI is where we're heading. But I don't think we're going to see full AI. We're not going to see full human. It's going to be like the best teams are using a combination.
So is it fair to say that when an SDR is using OneShot, it's not because we don't feel as if that SDR should be doing the work, because that is the role of an SDR. We feel that an AI assistant can do that job better. It's an actual improvement on the task, on the delivery of the task. It's not just because we can, it's because you should.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we were talking in the corridor about how there's been examples in the past of BDRs getting lazy and sending messages which are catastrophic in some instances to a company. And you want to have a formula where those mistakes can't take place. And so that's why you use a AI assistant, right?
Yeah, completely. I think like if you get someone to do a manual repetitive task every day, they stop doing it. Like it's just human nature. Like you can go and say, hey, I want you to create 50 really good emails to CEOs today. And you'll have that day one enthusiasm and you'll go do it and you'll research. And it's draining. It's actually physically draining. It sounds easy, but like by the time you've gone on their website, understand what the organization does, you've gone on their LinkedIn, you've looked at their background, like again, like coming to this podcast today, you've researched, you've looked at, imagine doing that 30 times a day for every person. And then on top of that, and then you're going to have to like, okay, well, out of that research, what am I going to use for an email? People just drop off. Like we've worked with thousands of SDRs over the last few years. They don't do it. And it's not because they can't, it's because it's boring, really boring work. And on top of that, they get a 2% response rate. So for every 100 emails, they've done all that research, well, maybe they get 2 responses. One of them is probably negative. And so it's like the effort reward is not there for them to do it. And they stopped it. It's just natural, right? If you're going to go to the gym every single day and not see a single result, you get bored, right? If you need the results, the motivation to keep going. Yeah. It's the same with prospecting. So now it's removing all that really crappy work, that really boring work for them.
If I imagine myself as a sales team leader and I've got 10 BDRs who at the moment don't use AI assistants and spend their time doing the research that we're talking about, and I see a product like OneShot, in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, well, if I take a AI assistant like that and I apply it to this team, they're all going to be sat twiddling their thumbs because I'm effectively going to do their job for them with this tool. But it sounds to me like there's actually a kind of mission here, which is to get the people talking to the people and let the work to that. Have I got that right?
Yeah, I'd say there's two parts. One is, I don't think you're going to see these 10-person teams doing that anymore. You needed 10 SDRs before because there's only 20 people they could reach out to per day. And you can't cold call 8 hours a day, 9 hours. And no one can do that a day in, day out for months, years, effectively. So what you'll start seeing, that same team will probably be 1 or 2 people. That doesn't mean those 8 people are going to lose their jobs. Those 8 people are probably going to go into a full cycle AE role. So they're going to be prospecting and selling at the same time. So this notion of these big, we work with customers who have like 30 SDRs, 50 SDRs, 70 SDR teams. They're looking at how they can centrally manage that now with 10 or 20. And now the people who are like doing those SDR roles are now getting promoted into full cycle AEs. They're now, which is 90% of SDRs, that's all they want to do. They want to move into a full cycle sales role. So actually, by just getting them to send pointless emails every day, we're actually holding them back. So you'll start seeing more like direct revenue generating roles being like created. You'll start seeing junior AE roles being created. You'll start seeing AI SDR manager roles being created. So overall, you'll see smaller SDR, traditional SDR teams, which is great. You'll start seeing more people learning about sales, speaking to customers, being in front of customers, going to trade shows, events, creating their own content. So the role will just change.
And you don't think that the AI assistant is just going to follow them into those new roles that are created for the people? Like, for example, as soon as an AI assistant comes along for AEs, then full cycle.
And it's good, right? And that should happen, right? If AI is removing manual work that can't be done by like computers, like by humans, that's great. So everything that AI does is basically just it's automating manual tasks, right?
Yeah, sure.
It can never replace being in front of customers. If I look back at my career, like the largest deal we closed was with big US bank, the largest bank in the world, $9 million. It took 1.5 years to close that deal. We met with 60 people from the customer. We met with the CTO of the bank who has 30,000 developers reporting into him. The amount of research and prep we did for those meetings, late night calls across the US and London, you can't replicate that with AI. You can't send AI in to meet with the CTO of the largest bank in the world. It's like, having a meeting, going for coffee with someone, having a chat about the commute, where they live, if they've got kids, if they don't have kids, what football team they support. Like those relationships will never, ever disappear. And the more human communication we can build like that, AI can never do that, ever. So I think that if we can more move towards that over the next 5-10 years and get back to human selling, like the world is going to be a better place.
Yeah. OneShot's taken pre-seed investment. You closed a successful round. As I understand, you're going to do another round relatively shortly. What's next for OneShot from a product development perspective?
Yeah. So we've done 2 rounds of funding. We did a pre-seed three years ago. We did our seed for $2.2 million about 14 months ago. We've gone through fairly substantial growth. So we've gone from almost 3 years ago, $0 to closing on $1.5-2 million now. And we're adding 15 to 20 new customers a month. So the growth is really focused. We're currently going through our Series A process right now, which we should have concluded in the next couple of months. I guess there's 3 parts to this, like where are we heading as a company? There's where are we hiring, where are we adding people, what are we doing around our GTM motions, and what are we doing around product? I think those are all 3 separate things. I think starting with the product, we are making it easier for people to use. So right now, you're going to start seeing a product-led motion coming out. So you're able to go online, go on a website and start using the product within minutes. So actually mainly aimed at the SMB market. So they can come on, it'll be a lower price point, $400 or $500 a month, and they can start using it immediately. So that was one of the big requests is, how can I build this world-class outbound team without hiring? SMBs with pre-seed funding, they can't go out and hire an SDR. On the flip side, we've also beefing out our enterprise offering. So we have deeper integrations with tools like Outreach, SalesLoft, G2, 6sense, HubSpot. And where we're focused on is now deeper integration with CRM. So really understanding where upsell opportunities are, cross-sell opportunities are, new accounts, new leads, new prospects, following up on inbound leads. Huge demand for that. So yeah, I think we're going to both ends of the market, the SMB market and enterprise market. And we're adding across marketing now, sales teams, CS teams, engineering. So yeah, across every department we're hiring right now as well.
I was interested in understanding the customer journey. So obviously what you've described is an incredibly powerful tool. How long does it take for a customer to come onto the website, say, book in a demo, and once they agree to use OneShots technology, how long does it take for it to be fully operational within their business?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think there's a bit of history behind this as well, where today, in short, you can get up and running within the day. So you can literally sign up and start sending messages within the day. How long has it taken us to get to a day? I think we've really taken this down from 2 weeks to 1 week to 5 days to 4 days to 1 day. It's not as easy as, hey, you can sign up and send a message. If everyone's used AI to send an email, it's actually really bad. So out of the box, AI isn't great at sending emails because there's no context that's been provided and no rule set has been provided. So to train AI, you have to understand, well, what does my company do? Who am I targeting? What does a good email look like? What research channels am I using? So all of those things have been incorporated now. So out the box, you can sign up. It will learn about your company, who you're targeting, your existing customers, who not to contact, who to contact, what a good message looks like, what a message should look like to each individual person. And now we can send it.
And are you holding their hand during that optimization process?
It's all out the box now. So that's taken, I would say, 12 months, 18 months to get it out the box. So we end up just replicating it for each customer, like what industries do they target, what job titles do they target. And on the flip side, some of our customers are large companies, hundreds of, like thousands of employees, 100-person sales teams. So the other challenge you've got is they've probably got 3,000 to 4,000 customers. They've probably got 1,000 active opportunities right now. They've got a team. So, you also need to be careful. You're not contacting existing customers. You're not contacting existing opportunities. You're not going above people accidentally with an account. You imagine you're trying to close a deal for a few $1 million and suddenly AI is emailing the CEO of that company. So these are things that you have to build into the company. And to do that, you have to have super deep CRM integration. So yeah, those are things we've spent and focused on. Today, we can go out the box. Every customer is different. The larger the company, the more complex their infrastructure is. But yeah, we've got pretty decent out the box offering now.
When you're going into those large data sets of 3,000 or 4,000 customers for a company that has an existing sales team, is the AI able to interpret the data within the CRM kind of better than a human would? In other words, what I'm trying to say is if the CRM has been poorly managed or the data is not clean, which is the case for a lot of them, is the tool able to assess the kind of customer sentiment and the stage by other aspects, like, for example, the emails recorded and things like that, to avoid contacting companies who they don't want to contact?
So we assume everyone's CRM sucks. Like I don't know.
Good assumption.
I don't know a single company where their CRM, salespeople, they'll put job title in as like developer dude or code ninja. And it's unstructured titles. They don't complete job titles. They use incorrect job titles. The email addresses are different. They rush notes in. So it's just a messy, CRM is a messy like beast in itself. So the first thing we do is we clean it up. So we like enrich it. We look at the unstructured data, we structure it, we look at seniority. So we can say Code Ninja is actually most likely a developer and it's at this seniority level. We can look at their LinkedIn and like enrich that data. Actually, this is the correct job title.
And when you say when you say we, just because we're talking about AI and humans,
this is the platform.
This is the out of the box tool. It's not a person, it's an AI tool looking into your CRM. And is the tool actually enriching the data? So it's interacting with your CRM. Working as if it's an invisible person cleaning up your database.
It's looking at thousands of existing data. It's looking at, let's assume we don't know who Barclays are in this room, right? Barclays is just another company. So it's looking at Barclays. Okay, now it's enriching. Who are they? How big are they? An investment bank? Are they a retail bank? How long have they been going for? How many employees do they have? Is there any areas of speciality that they focus on as a bank? So we enrich all of that. What are the lookalike accounts? Is it HSBC? Is it Lloyd? So we do all of that. The platform does all of that on the fly. So we can look at that and say, okay, who are the lookalike companies to this? Who else? Multi-product. Barclays may be a customer for one product, but they're not using another product, which is a completely different set of people. So and coming back to like what OneShot do, the AI SDR I would class as the outreach. The CRM is very much a RevOps role. So today, companies are spending their RevOps teams of 5 to 10 people who are spending their life in CRM. They're pulling target account lists. They're saying, okay, based on existing customer, here are the top 1,000 accounts to go after. We have 15 salespeople. So each salesperson is going to get 150 accounts. And then what happens is we give them these 150 accounts and they don't do anything with them. They probably reach out to 5 to 10 people. So RevOps have spent all this time doing all this great work. They've looked for firmographics that are similar. In these 1,000 accounts, they all use Salesforce. They're all using AWS. They're using MongoDB as their database. So actually, we know that the problems exist that we can solve. But the bottleneck is the salesperson now. They're not reaching out to them. So now with AI, we can identify those accounts and we can reach out to them with the correct messages. So it's a RevOps person, it's an AI person, it's a salesperson, it's an enablement person, all in one.
When it's most of us who have run a sales team are used to having everyone on a user license, and they can be quite expensive. If an organization is using Salesforce, how does your tool actually interact with the Salesforce CRM? Is it acting on behalf of an existing user license for one of the team, for example, or is it? How does that work?
Yeah, so we API into Salesforce. And so a big advantage here is Venki, who's my co-founder, CTO, was at Salesforce for the last 15 years. So nobody knows better the mess CRM systems are in. And Salesforce is built an ecosystem of Salesforce consultants. Their entire job is to clean up Salesforce. And there are thousands, millions of these people, and they're highly paid. So we've built software to effectively cleanse that CRM, fix it, enrich it, categorize it, understand what's working, what's not working. So how we commercialize our offering is number of prospects we go after. So we can say, hey, we found you 20,000 amazing people to go after. We found these 20,000 people based on the firmographics, your existing customers, what's happening within the market, if they're hiring, if they're not hiring, if they've raised funding, if their engineering headcount is growing by 30% year on year. So we know these are 20,000 really good people. And now we've got those 20,000, now we're going to send them really good, highly effective, research personalized messages. So the more messages they send, the more emails that get open, the more responses they get, the more pipeline they generate. So it's a win-win. We consume. They spend more money with us, they get more results. It's great for them, it's great for us, it's great for the customers, right, as well.
And they can specialize their sales team. I mean, it really, really excites me because, anyone who's ever worked on a sales team, you can be shoulder to shoulder with somebody who has relatively poor people skills, let's put it that way. And you get into sales as a young person, you think to yourself, I've got great people skills, I'm good at communicating with people, I'll be fantastic at selling. And then you realize the cold, stark truth, which is that 90% of your time is going to be spent in a database, and you've got to be looking at people here, there, and everywhere. And your people skills that you are proud of and excited to use in sales, they don't get used. And then you look over your shoulder at the person down the end of the table who's some sweat, who just loves to manage databases, and they're achieving better sales despite their poor people skills because it's such a big proportion of the sales job. So your tool allows a company to have a sales staff who are specialized in dealing with people, not with data. So you can hire on that basis. If you hire an SDR, they're going to be doing demos, not databases. And then you can hire the AI for the database.
Yeah, completely.
It seems to me that you've created a tool which is almost too powerful. There are so many roles within OneShot. We were just talking about Salesforce cleaning up. That's an entire market. It could be an AI assistant on its own. How did you decide where the tool starts and stops, or at the moment do they just get the full power of OneShot with one role?
I think there's a few elements, and I think the people doing that work don't want to be doing that work. So a Salesforce consultant actually doesn't want to be cleansing data. It's actually really boring work for them. but it has to be done. And actually, if you speak to a Salesforce consultant, a RevOps person, they want to be doing the super cool stuff. Like, we've just uncovered this new territory in Germany of manufacturing companies building these specific machines. We've identified there's 300 of these accounts, which are prime for our solution. Each of those customers is worth 300K. There's a $20 million opportunity within these accounts. I want the sales team organized. I want to work with marketing to create custom landing pages, marketing collateral. That's what they want to be doing. But because of all this debt and the boring data, that's where they're stuck. They're stuck. None of them actually want to do it. So you can use AI to do that. RevOps can now work with finance teams, marketing teams, sales teams to do the really cool, sexy stuff that they actually want to do. And I guess in answer to your second, where does OneShot start and end? We constantly work backwards from top of funnel, from pipeline. Like, all people care about is how can I increase revenue? How can I increase my pipeline? So how can I increase my positive responses? So we work backwards from that. So how do I increase my positive responses? It comes down to, I'd say, 4 parts. Identifying the right account, identifying the right prospect, the person within that account, creating the right message, and then understanding when to send that message or what channel to send that message. So looking at those 4 parts, account. So I could send 1,000 best emails in the world right now, like highly personalized, bring up a school memory that you've even forgotten about, right? There's some crazy, amazing email. But at the end of the day, if you're not the right account, you're not the right person, those emails are all wasted. So there's no point in sending these emails unless you know that the account is the right account. They fall within your ICP. The prospect is the right prospect. So we look at all 4 of those areas. So how can we find the best accounts? Finding the best accounts is from cleaning your CRM data, identifying it, then forward looking. Let's say I want to go after some trading companies, some Forex companies. I need to read their website. What do they do? Are they hiring? And so really just on the account basis, how deep can we go? And it's never ending. You can go super, super, super deep. On the prospect, how deep can we go finding the right people? On the message, how deep can we go? So we're looking at all of those areas and just going super, super, super. And where this will end up is channel. Email is one channel. LinkedIn is another channel. We're building personalized landing pages. So if we can get someone to click off the email, which, an email's 70 words, 80 words. If you can get them to click off the email and you can create an entire personalized landing page experience for them. It's like, hey, we've created this custom video. Here's an AI version of our CEO giving you a personalized pitch based on your company. So video, voice notes, LinkedIn, cold calling, that's where the market is heading towards. Not just email as a channel, not just LinkedIn as a channel. AI's opened up an entire personalized outbound experience. Like, maybe we serve them LinkedIn ads, Google ads. Maybe we retarget them. Maybe we know they're going to a show. So you can change your CTAs. You can change that journey. It doesn't just have to be an email anymore.
Yeah.
You mentioned that OneShot deals with one of your co-founders' pain points. So the mess of some Salesforce CRMs. What are the pain points that OneShot resolves that you experience personally?
I've built lots of sales teams, and I'd say one of the things I've proven time and time is building a good outbound team. Whether that's an SDR and AE, the reps are responsible for their own pipeline, and they set aside an hour a day, 2 hours a day to prospect. And when you manage a team of 10, 20, 50 sellers, getting 50 people to have that mentality of prospecting every day is incredibly hard. And every week or month, we'd analyze results. So, okay, how many meetings did you set up from your own cold prospecting this month? And some would be really good. I set 10 meetings up. Some would be really poor, like I've set 0 meetings up. And then the low performers, it was always the same thing every single time. Okay, number one, are they doing the activity? And you'd see, okay, they're doing the activity. They're making the calls. So, okay, now I've identified they're doing the activity. Next phase would be, are they going after the right accounts? And then I could quickly see, okay, look, they're going after finance companies, insurance. That's our ICP. So they're reaching out to the right people. So take that one off. Next it was always the message would be poor. So I could analyze the messages manually and be like, okay, the subject line is 8 words. the email is 200 words. It looks like a spammy generic message. So now I've identified where the problem is they're sending really poor messages out. And I would have to do this weekly for reps. Accounts, why they're not performing, is it the research? Okay, if they got the personalized, and it was just tiring. And then, being a VP of sales, I was responsible for revenue as well. So we're trying to close a deal for a $9 million deal. My attention is going to go towards that $9 million deal. So I would probably slacken myself off the prospecting. And so I was like, this isn't the way. This isn't the way to do it. We should have a machine doing the accounts, doing the research, doing the messaging. That should be handled by AI, by software. And so that was it. And then once we started building the system, and I had dashboards, I created manual dashboards in Salesforce that were effectively doing this for me. And that was the pain. I can't, seeing SDRs spamming people every single day. They were taught, send more mails. We're just going to piss off all of our customers. I was saying before, I think if CEOs of growth companies actually saw the mails that SDRs were sending, they would probably fire the entire SDR team. They have no idea the shit that's going out effectively. And it is terrible. It's long generic messages. And the CEOs have personal relationships with these people. And they don't know that the SDRs are sending this. They literally are so far removed from what the SDR is doing, they have no idea. And if they saw what they were doing, 10-stage email with hey, you must have missed my last message, and a meme of a cat or something with its eyes rolling. And they were sending these to the CTOs of the biggest brand. And it's it's embarrassing on the organization. It's humiliating.
Yeah.
So you obviously say that you were, VP of that company and managing those teams. What's the personal journey like to go from what is, I assume, quite a secure job to now co-founding a company where you are?
Yeah. It's hard. I think I started in software sales when I was 21. That was I finished uni, I started as an SDR, and luckily I just fell in love with it. Day one, I was traveling to the US, working with these amazing salespeople. I didn't realize salespeople, I just thought salespeople were what you cold calling whilst you're watching EastEnders or something, it was that was my impression of salespeople. Were they're annoying. You don't want to deal with them. There's no money to be made in sales. And then you suddenly go into software sales and suddenly oh wow, you're looking at the car park and there's Ferraris and stuff. What is this? Is that, oh, that must be the CEO's car and stuff. No, it's the sales teams. You suddenly start hearing stories about salespeople at Oracle earning $2 to $3 million a year. Salesforce on the way up earning $1 million. Blade Logic, BMC, and you say the top earning salespeople in the company earning $1 million, $2 million a year. Whoa, this is a pretty interesting industry. I think I'm quite interested in this market now. Salespeople. So I just always wanted to be from an SDR to an AE to a VP of sales, and that was my journey. And I loved it, and I loved all of it. And then I kind of got to about 35, 36, and I moved to the US. My old boss was hey, we're starting a startup. We're going to raise a bunch of money. And we raised $16 million from Excel. So I moved out to Silicon Valley. That company never found product market fit. We never grew, we got acquired. But I think moving to Silicon Valley for a few years and just seeing the difference of everything was startup crazy. You go to a coffee shop, there'd be VCs and founders pitching. The offices were just buzzing with founders. It was just a different energy. You don't see that in London. London's a finance city, right? And we are improving at tech as other cities are, but it was a different ball game. And then you're going past the offices of Google and Microsoft and Salesforce, and you're seeing all these it's like a celebrity tour. You're seeing all these companies and I couldn't get rid of the itch at that point. Meeting with the best VCs in the world. That company never worked out. So I moved back to London. I went back into a VP role. CloudBees, joined them at 10 million. We scaled to 150 million. Huge journey. But at the end of that, I just kind of thought without sounding arrogant, I was able to build teams, turn around teams, close multi-million-dollar deals, hire SDRs, see where my low profile, it was becoming quite easy. And that coupled with being in the Valley, seeing that there's this opportunity, meeting Venki on the co-founder side of things, I just thought I need to do this now. I was like 37. If I didn't have kids at the time, if I don't do this now, I'm probably never going to do it. So at that point, I'd already decided I'm going to do it. And then I met Venki, and we just went for it. And I was kind of starting to, I didn't even think about the work, the risk, the money, how long it's going to take. I literally didn't even think about it. It was kind of oblivious to me. I just felt so strongly that I wanted to do this, and I'm going to regret not doing this. That I just needed to do. It was actually, I watched, I think there was like some cricket show on, and it was like some really old people being in, I think they're 90s, and they were talking about this Ashes tour they did in like the 70s or something, and they were just these like super young, fit men. I just remember them like just talking, they were talking with such like fondness, and they were so proud. And I was like, yeah, like I want to be, when I'm 90, I want to look back, and I just want to be like, yeah, this is the time I went for it.
So when you kicked off, when you started that journey, you committed to it, you went all in. How did you, when did you have the idea to incorporate AI into optimizing sales systems?
Yeah, so we started off, so Venki is an enterprise person, I'm an enterprise person. So we almost over-engineered the problem. So we wanted to build this big product, and almost actually being naive is almost better. So we decided to like, how do we built, our MVP was CRM integration, finding the right accounts, finding the right people, integrating with data providers, suggesting the people to go after, and then producing the message. This is pre-ChatGPT.
Yeah, right.
So
this is early.
Super early. And so we wanted to look at finding the right accounts we could do. And we took it into customers, and they were like, oh, this is amazing. VPs of sales, like, oh my God, I knew we were not touching these accounts. I want my sales team to test it out. And then we'd bring it into the sales team. So we're like, oh, I like it. I like the fact. The bit that the salespeople were most interested was the messaging. They're like, okay, it's cool, but I don't really have a problem finding new accounts because I can go on the data providers and I'll find new accounts. I also don't have an issue finding people because I go on LinkedIn and I can just run some filters. The messaging though. And there was this pre-seed stage startup. You can't build, you have to focus on one area. So the market was telling us, and our end users and our customers found the messaging was the big piece of all of this. Luckily for us, GPT did have a version out. It was 2.5. So this is the first ever version that was only available to developers. And the only way you could get onto their developer program was you had to cold prospect them, and you had to pitch them to like beg them to why you could get on their developer program. And I was like, I can cold pitch them. I'm like, so I cold email them. I found people who worked. I'm like, hey, we're building this next generational sales tool. It's going to help salespeople. So they gave us their first ever version of ChatGPT. And the LLM was really bad though. The messaging was really bad. Like super cheesy. So if you ever receive like these annoying AI LinkedIn messages where like, I've noticed we've got Tom and Sarah in common, that was sent from us. So our first version was a Chrome extension that sat on top of LinkedIn that sent LinkedIn AI messaging. And it worked. We had thousands of users using it. We were sending thousands of LinkedIn messages. But LinkedIn don't like these types of technologies. They don't like automation. So we kind of stepped away from that. And actually, as the LLMs improved and 3.5 came out and 4, by that point, because we had to compensate for such cheesy messaging, it meant we knew research was really important. So let's look at G2, let's look at Glassdoor reviews, let's read them. So we'd built all of these research channels to compensate for the really poor messaging. And so, yeah, we did that, we built that, and then the LLMs improved, our research improved. So it kind of all just naturally, if we didn't build the research channels, we wouldn't have the messaging we have today. So yeah, it all worked really well in hindsight, but it was painful, like going through that. And LinkedIn told us off at one point, like, hey, you can't build this tool, you can't scrape our data. So we kind of learned through that, and we decided we didn't want to like piss off LinkedIn.
I love that you got ChatGPT 2.5.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a little bit of it here there. I didn't have developer access, but you were early on it. And I remember those kind of seeing those cheesy messages start to come through from place, the people experimenting with it.
Yeah.
Can I ask you then, if you're using an LLM, the cheesy messaging is a good point to make, because of course your product's come a long way from when you started and the AI is getting better and better and better. But within an organization, if an SDR or a BDR is using an AI assistant, do you ever have any problems managing liability in a sense? So if a poor email is sent to someone and something catastrophic happens, although it's much less likely to happen with the AI, and the organization's then irritated because something bad has happened, do they turn to you as effectively the umbrella of the employee they've used?
Yeah.
Or, and how do they then deal with their own BDR who might be sat around saying, my AI isn't as good as someone else's AI assistant, and that's why my pipeline's been bad. It's not my fault, it's the AI's fault. How's that been?
We had to do it again. This is super early. We had to, because we've been building messaging for so many years. This was exactly one of the problems where we would just automate the messaging, and if that messaging was incorrect or bad or inappropriate, we were liable, and they would just blame us. And so we built controls and mechanisms where it's on the user. We have a review process in place where the actual end user approves if that message is acceptable. We've built a system so you can easily scroll and approve that messaging really easily. So we have customers approving 200-300 messages in 20 minutes. So it's really we've built the system to scale. They approve it. We've also built AI validation on top of it. So it's make sure there's no swearing, it's not racist, there's no profanities in there, and there's all these things that we've built on top of it. So read the message, understand if I was this person receiving the message, is it the right message to receive? Is it suitable? If there's anything sensitive in it, pull it out of the message. So we've built all these controls and mechanisms. The end user approves the message. They can do it in a really quick way. There's times where obviously the message is produced off the research. So we're looking at their LinkedIn profile, their website data, looking for news. So sometimes that information might not be up to date. It might be inaccurate. It might be super old. And so occasionally you'll get someone hey, I haven't worked at that company in 10 years. Why are you sending me this message? And then actually, if you looked at LinkedIn, they haven't updated their LinkedIn. Yeah. And then you're and then, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. So there's always risk, I think, when you're relying on AI to produce messaging. So
there's risk with humans as well.
Yeah. And humans are just sending really lazy, static messages. So I've managed human teams doing outbound, and I've managed AI doing outbound. And actually I'm making up a number here, but it's roughly about 90% less issues with AI.
Wow.
So when I'm not seeing anywhere near the amount of emails where stop messaging me, this is inappropriate. They're sometimes this is a really poor message. I actually say the amount of compliments we're seeing, we're thanks for taking the time to look at my LinkedIn. I really like the message. I'd say that is higher than I've ever seen, even with a human team.
And is the message to the prospective client presented as the AI assistant or as the actual human being?
As the human.
Because it seems to me like this is going to go the direction where the AIs become better than the humans. So I get a really nice personalized email, and I've seen some of your examples. Yeah. Hey, you're a dog lover. I certainly am. Yeah. I support this football team. Sure, I do. And then I get on the phone with who I think has been emailing me, and I say, let's talk about Shih Tzus. Yeah. And they say, what on earth would we talk about Shih Tzus for? And I say, I'm a dog lover. You told me I'm a dog lover. We're dog lovers, aren't we? And they say, I've been left behind by my AI assistant. Do you think that's possible to take place?
I think that's already happening. I think for sure, because I think we're seeing it today. So what we try and do, people are lazy. We're all lazy. We get used to something. So right now, we're talking about channels, we're now working on AI cold calling scripts. So before someone makes a cold call, they now have a script in front of them, a personalized script. So mention this point to them to open the cold call to get their attention. So we're now providing that research before a meeting. So we've taken our research, and today we just say you can only use our research that then gets used for an AI email. But now our customer's actually, I don't want to use your AI emails. I want to use your AI research for my deal prep. I've got a meeting with this customer. I want you to use. So now we're using our research in different ways. So we're providing that in different formats. We're pushing it to CRMs. People are coming into our platform. We're about to integrate it with Google Calendar. So you'll be able to like pull in Google Calendar and say, I've got a meeting, tell me everything about my prospects, my companies. From a podcast perspective, give me 10 podcast questions to ask that person as well. So yeah, we're using that research in lots of different ways now as well.
If a sales team has got multiple sales members, can they use one user account for OneShot with one of their salespeople to try it out, or is it the case that they have to give it to everyone in the sales team at the same time?
They can have multiple, but the way we commercialize this, way we charge is like number of researchers. So everyone can have access. We want to give everyone as much access as possible. And then what happens is they'll start saying, oh, I want more research. I want to use this for more research. And then we start, we have a credit system.
Okay.
So you'll get like 1,000 researchers per month per user. And if that team uses 1,000, if one person, they have to upgrade and buy more.
I see.
I mean, there's something that I would be interested to know, and it's obviously feeds into your investment round.
Right.
Where do you see yourself, 1 year from now, 3 years from now, and 5 years from now?
That's something.
It's funny. I think when you start a company and people ask you like, oh, what's the plan? When you're pre-seed and people are like, oh, do you think you're going to get acquired? Are you going to do this? And at pre-seed, you literally are not even thinking. When you're starting a company, are you thinking about 100 million? No, of course not. You're thinking about, how do I get my first customer? And your VC's like, well, how big's the market? What's your addressable market? And you're just like, I just want my first 5 customers. I want my first 10 customers. I need to find a decent co-founder. So you can't look 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead at the beginning. And now I would say, we're 3 years into the journey. Now I can start seeing it. Right now, I don't think I saw it a few years ago. And I think if someone asked me 2 years ago, do you see this as 100 million, 200 million? Do you see this as a unicorn? Do you see this? And you would say, yeah, it's going to be huge. But really deep down, I'd never really thought about it. But I would say in the last 12 months is the first time we can probably build a unicorn. And then the reason I can say that now is because there's legacy sales tech out there. There's people sending static, and there's companies out there, Outreach, $4 billion valuation. Salesloft got acquired for $2.3 billion. These companies are turning a 400 million, 500 million in revenue. And effectively, their legacy, they're sending an old, static, generic message. And they've relied on huge SDR teams. That market shift is happening. It's happened. Where now people are, we don't need these tools anymore. They don't work for what we need. We're decreasing the size. So this AI has caused this huge shift in the market to happen. So now companies are looking for software like ours, where they're like, we want to have a 5-person SDR team only. We only want our SDRs cold calling. We want a tool to be able to understand our customers. So now the appetite from the end user, from customers, is there. We have CEOs booking demos with us directly. Of 1,000 employee companies who are looking at like how they can utilize this from their own team. So now, where do I see this? Is like I see OneShot being the GTM outbound motion for every company out there. We don't just sell to tech companies. We have companies in accounting, in manufacturing, in pharma, in medical. So now we've suddenly got this TAM of like, you don't just have to sell to one industry. Now we can sell. So now we're selling to thousands and thousands of companies. We're closing. Yesterday, we closed 2 deals in an hour, and these are $15,000 a deal. So we closed like $30,000 in a few hours because companies are like, I don't want to hire SDRs. Startups are moving super good. So for us now, the world is out there. It's obviously an incredibly competitive market. New players, like if it's a sexy, hot market, you're going to attract competition because everyone knows that the market is super hot. Yeah. So our challenge isn't, the market's there. People are going to move that spend. There are going to be 3 to 5 unicorns for sure. Where we believe we're well placed because we've been building tech, we understand the problem, we're subject matter expert. It's like, how can we go faster than the competitors? How can we, and a couple of these large companies I mentioned, they're obviously going to try and come into this space and they have hundreds of engineers. So for us, it's, how fast can we move? How can we acquire customers faster? How can we enable our customers faster? How can we get a better GTM motion? How can we hire the best talent? Like that's the race now. So can we hit 100 million, 200? Yes. But today it's the focus is now like, How can we acquire more customers? How can we get better at our social strategy, our SEO strategy? How can we onboard more customers? How can we get more case studies? How do we hire the best talent? Like that's it. We can't think past that right now.
And would you consider strategic partnerships as OneShot continues to grow?
Yeah. So this is, again, and this is like, I think, coming down to execution. Partnerships with the CRM providers, the existing sequencing providers.
Well, I'm actually thinking about strategic partnerships with other disruptive companies like yours who have built an AI tool that fits into a different area of the organization.
Yeah.
Someone who provides perhaps customer call insights or deeper aspects so that they can combine, because I'm seeing a lot of kind of disruptive startups taking a chunk of the organization's daily workflow. But I wonder if there's room for people to combine forces like a transformer and then present themselves to a company able to do
I think you have to. I think the winner, and the winners will be decided 2 years, right? And you'll start seeing early winners now, right? But like the winner will be the 100 million, 200 million. And I think as well as having an amazing product that customers love, as well as raising all the money, it's have you got your GTM motion right? Do you have the right strategic partnerships in place? If you've got AI customer success, are you partnered with the best in breed? Are you associating yourself with those companies as well? Like, I think you have to have that piece as well as the product, as well as the sales, as well as the funding. So I think it's just, you have to. I think you have to.
You're working with some pretty big companies and some pretty substantial industries. Can we talk for a moment about the stability and the robustness of the product? You know quite a lot about OpenAI. You've been using early ChatGPT 2.5. How vulnerable are your company and other companies who use the API from ChatGPT to ChatGPT deciding to change their policies or pricing models or access?
I think it's a risk, as is like relying heavily on another tech. I think this is for us, the robustness we've been building for 3 years. So and unfortunately, the only way to learn is through making mistakes, right? As much as like we can prevent and like build things and so on. One of the issues we had maybe 2 years ago is we would send too many mails from one mailbox, and then that mailbox deliverability would drop down. But we didn't think about creating our own email domains and email warming and mailbox rotation. Like we didn't because we're thinking about how do we create a better message. But through that, we built our own email infrastructure and cold email warming and rotation. Like we've had to build it because we pissed off a customer. So we've built huge robustness around that. We had bugs within the product, like every product does, like enablement sucked within the product. So we've just had to, it just takes time. It takes user feedback, but we've got 3 years. We have thousands of end users who've used, we've sent millions of emails. There's just life happens, right? Mistakes happen, use cases come up we didn't think of. So yeah, we've had that 3 years of like, I guess, being in war, being in battle. So we've built that in. I think if OpenAI change, I think we're not as, open to like any disruption in a huge way, because we have our data, the CRM integration, there's multiple LLMs we rely on, we have multiple data partnerships. We've built our prompting in a certain way. We're building our own LLMs in-house as well. So nice. Great. We've just done, it's just time. It takes time. You can't just produce this overnight, and you learn from like customers and, an LLM is a specialist in a certain area. So we're now building custom LLMs for our customers. So we know that maybe TripAdvisor have a certain specific customer. We see certain trends going on. We see a certain type of message working. We see certain accounts. So we're building our own customer LLMs for our own customers now. Yeah, gotcha. So all of these things where we're progressing, and because we're enterprise, right? We're not just focused on the SMB space. The enterprise space have a ton of problems, ton of challenges. They need very specific solutions for them.
Yeah, it's really forward thinking in the respect, and I completely get where you're coming from. You've got to, counter the problem first and build second in a sense. But, in the future, lots of organizations will have quite a lot of their work completed by AI. And I think people will have to look much closer into the liability aspects of putting it in, just in the same way that if they were to hire a real person, lots of companies have non-disclosure agreements. It's quite typical, and especially in sales, to have non-competes. Yeah. And so, who are using the same AI and how are they different? But you talked about how it's own operated and improved. Yeah, very interesting. I understand it. It's great, Gautam. It's a really cool product. No wonder you're getting so many customers. Son.
Yeah, it's good. It's awesome. Exciting.
And fair play to you for taking the leap and pursuing it.
You just got to keep. I think with startups in general, you just got to keep going. I think I can't remember who it was. It's a great podcast. It's just your pain tolerance. It comes down to.
I mean, if you've come through software sales, you've got a pain tolerance.
Yeah,
I mean, you've been there.
Yeah,
I think I saw someone you've employed is from Softcat, and they come with a pain tolerance too. I know that how they roll. And
we say often, don't we, that it's a war of attrition.
Yeah.
It is a war of attrition. You know, we know we can win, but you just have to withstand the length of battle.
Yeah, and that's it. I think that's where it's going to come down to. Yeah. It's going to come down to that. And it's hard, and you have to be positive, right? You remember, now we're winning more than we're losing. Now, I would say, so generally, we're having more good days than bad days. But for the first few years, it's bad day after bad day. There's there's one piece of good news every 3 weeks. And so the rest is just, it didn't work. The message is bad. There's a bug. Oh, we're looking at this. We're not going to buy. It's too expensive. You're just dealing with that every single day. And I've worked for growth companies where it's close $1 million deal, $2 million, nice big commission check. And it's the opposite where it's okay, my savings are now disappearing. People are complaining about the product. We spent 3 months building the wrong feature that no one's going to use. So you're just going through that, and then your employees become unhappy, and that's what it is for the first few years. And every company goes through it, and then the VCs are, why are we not doing that? Why are we not raising our next round? Or what's the defensibility with it? It's generally shit for 99% of the time. But once you get to the other side, it almost becomes 80% good. And then you suddenly the fire, and the reasons you quit your job in the first place, the reasons you started it aren't there for the first few years. So you're it's going to be great. I want to be my own boss. I want to do all these things. But actually it's worse. Being your own boss is actually harder than having a boss, right? Because you're harder on yourself and you take failure more, and there's a bigger repercussion if you fail and things like that. So it takes years to get to the other side. And some companies, UiPath, I think took 18 years to go from $0 to $1 million. It took some crazy amount of time, and they went from 1 million to 2 billion in 5 years or 3 years. But that 18 years, some companies just keep going and they keep changing. But it's the inner strength and the mentality of those people is phenomenal.
Yeah. Great. Unless there's anything that before the cameras and the mics turn off, is there anything that occurs to you that you want to touch on?
No, it's great. I think anyone think about starting a business, just be prepared for just the hard times, the sacrifice. So it's all the stuff you hear, but it's real. It's it's real. It will happen.
Yeah. Wicked. Well, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for talking.
Loved it.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Great.
Cheers.